This mineshaft generated inside of an iceberg, and this jungle temple and witch hut spawned on top of a literal woodland mansion. Today we're counting down the most insane sights Minecraft has to offer. So we'll start off with the simple surprises and build up to the real mind-blowing stuff at the end of the video. From down here, this looks a lot like a regular river, but from up top, it's a lot easier to notice what's going on. When you spawn into this seed, there's a series of 8 rivers that are all locked together like so. Add on to that the fact that there's a neighboring desert village and desert temple, and this spawn seems to have you covered and then some. But by far my favorite detail of this might just have to be that since the rivers seem to mark an X on the map, you'd figure there's some treasure nearby. And sure enough, if you go looking for it, there's even a treasure chest within spitting distance of the location, making it all come together nicely. This mushroom fields biome spawned in with only 3 blocks above the water, and with no mobs or trees in sight, which really begs the question, how small can a biome be before it's no longer considered a biome? But seeing as mycelium blocks only spawn in a mushroom fields biome, this does make the cut. And really, just imagine traveling thousands of blocks to try and find a mushroom island, only to find this instead. Ouch. Some people live in igloos, but this villager decided to live in an iceberg. See, when you spawn in on this seed, you'll notice that this island village is nearby. But on the outskirts of town, one villager had their house spawn completely intact within the confines of a block of ice. And if that didn't seem bad enough already, once you step inside, you'll notice that the whole house's interior is filled with solid ice blocks, making this feel a lot more like a prank than an act of random generation. This might be the easiest mineshaft to find in Minecraft history, and not because it's common, but because the thing managed to spawn right outside in the open air. See, when we spawn in, we're treated to a desert village right nearby, but as soon as we venture off towards the mesa, we can see that this nearby biome has an excavated mineshaft floating like so. And why it's out in the open, I honestly have no clue, but even if that wild sight isn't enough for you, then at least there's also a desert pyramid at another village over in the plains to keep you busy. Have you ever seen a floating jungle temple? Yeah, me neither. And even after looking at this one, it still doesn't feel real. Now, I've seen floating pirate ships before, but this particular build looks like a much better fit for the movie Up than it does for Minecraft. And what adds to all of this is the floating piece of land that we see sitting above it, which could have possibly been what the game tried to spawn the jungle temple on. But when it couldn't, we got this odd floating thing instead. But in any case, if you're gonna try to raid it, just remember to pack away to get both up and back down. Here we have a woodland mansion that spawned right within a lush cave, which might sound crazy since they don't even spawn at the same elevation. But apparently this woodland mansion spawned in the side of a hill, and that resulted in this lush interior design. And at this point, it doesn't even feel right to call it a woodland mansion anymore. But hey, if you want to, you could always choose to break down the walls and open up the floor plan a bit. That might make for a solid spot for your next base. The village that spawns in this seed seems to be a little worse for wear, and the reason for that might be these 3 cave spider spawners that spawned right out in the middle of the open. See, it seems that our mesa mineshaft might have gotten a bit too close to this neighboring desert village, and when it did, it created this weird hodgepodge of string and sand. But hey, while that might look like a negative, this might be the quickest way to start trading your string for emeralds with the Fletcher villager, though the threat of danger nearby still might outweigh those early game exploits, especially at nighttime. This villager decided to set up a house right on top of a desert pyramid, which would be weird on its own, but it's even stranger when you consider that the villager's house is an igloo, meaning we have a very strange combination between icy and hot right here on the border of the biomes. And hey, even more so, this desert pyramid seemed to have spawned in a mesa biome of all places, not even a desert biome. And while it's easy to make fun of how crazy this whole situation is, I just think it's nice to see all of these 4 nations live together in harmony. This seed is impossible to play in hardcore mode. Let me explain. See, if you're unfortunate enough to get this seed, you spawn into a dungeon with a cave spider spawner right within view. But before you try to run away, those piles of cobwebs will keep you from escaping. And just like that, you're gonna be in for a short speed run. Or you would be if you didn't try this. See, in single player, if you exit and then relog back into a world, then there is a possibility that you can receive a few moments of invulnerability, which might provide us with enough time to break your way out. Abandoned mineshafts are fairly common, but this one seems particularly rare. Now, normally we'd expect these mineshafts to be down in, well, the mines, but this one happened to spawn all the way up inside of an iceberg, which is even weirder when you consider that this type of behavior should only happen in mesa biomes. And this iceberg feels like the complete and total opposite of that biome. Though at the very least, this does give us some extra daylight outside to keep that spider spawner from giving us any trouble. Finding one village is a treat, so 3 on the same island should be a real surprise. Here we get the kind of spawn that you can only dream of, with 3 villages full of food and a blacksmith to get you started. And with so many buildings and villagers so close, the trading possibilities are endless. Or if that village life still isn't for you and you're still really hoping to get away, then at least there's a shipwreck nearby to give you an excuse to leave the island. In this seed, we spawn inside of Atlantis, or at least part of it. Here, this seed happens to spawn us right underwater, swimming inside of an ocean ruin. And while it's weird enough to spawn crouched down under a block like this, you better figure a way out quick before you drown down there. So we'll while this might seem like a pretty brutal spawn with no land in sight, at least you do have a buried treasure map down there in the chest to get you started. And if you ask me, that's a much better start than just punching a few trees in a plains biome. You're just gonna have to work for it. From this level, this witch hut seems normal, but from the ground level, it's immediately apparent that there's something different. See, on this seed, this witch and their cat seem to have spawned right on top of an extra tall hut right next to a mountain ridge. And the reason for that seems to be that because this generated right on the edge of a hill and swamp biome, it glitched out and caused the pillars to be very high. But considering cats don't take fall damage, the feline friend can leave just fine, while the witch ends up as dead as Fortnite. And if you're wondering why we're at war with Fortnite, when I asked the Fortnite community to try to get Minecraft Steve added to the game, they told me no one cares about Minecraft. So now us as the Minecraft community need to pass Fortnite in subscribers to prove once and for all it's the better game. Please subscribe, otherwise Steve will be sad. Let me show you how to get diamonds without using any tools. See, on this seed, we happen to spawn way down in a ravine at the bottom of the world, which seems like a negative until we look down. Since then, you'll notice that there are some diamond ore that generated right where we're standing. And because there happens to be a creeper right within view, they'll be able to help you get those diamonds in almost no time at all, just as long as you don't die from the explosion. But even if you manage to survive all that chaos and get the diamonds, you still won't have any wood nearby to make a diamond pickaxe, making you trapped, but rich, so it's a compromise. Igloos can be a rare sight, but when they're at the bottom of a cave, they're even harder to find. See, this igloo spawned in so low that it happens to have its basement sitting at the very bottom of the world, meaning we've got ourselves a nice bedrock basement, if nothing else. But really, that's not the only weird part about this, since if you were to play this seed in 1.16, you can see that the snowy igloo is surrounded by boiling lava, which makes for a weird pair. Though if you were to play this in the 1.17 update, you'd notice that the lava that was around the igloo has now been replaced with water instead, which seems a lot safer. From this angle, this seems like a normal woodland mansion, but up top, it's a different story. Here, we somehow had both a jungle temple and a witch hut spawn on top of a mansion, which begs a lot of questions. For one, all of these structures are meant to spawn in different biomes, those being a swamp, a jungle, and a dark forest. Add on to that the fact that all of these structures are quite rare, and you've got a veritable treasure trove of luck. But hey, maybe this gives a reason for why those witches help out on the illager raids. It's because they're neighbors. Minecraft's world generation can sometimes feel repetitive, but here, that's literally true. In this seed, we see a rare occurrence of the world literally repeating itself along this line, meaning that everything, including diamonds, structures, and even biomes will stitch together along this line. And if you want to try for yourself, just type in this teleport command on the seed and you'll go to the same spot over and over again, even if it's at different coordinates. And big props to Matthew Bolin for creating a literal algorithm to find this seed in the first place. That's a huge accomplishment in its own right. And it'll only take one look at the end dimension with this seed to see that the hard work finally paid off. This desert pyramid spawned in with no TNT trap room, which sounds like a dream, but don't get your hopes up. Since when we take a look at what's actually down there, you'll notice that the easily disarmed stone pressure plate has been replaced with a pool of lava, which is a lot less safe to dig into, obviously. But even if you were to find a way down through all of that, I'll save you the frustration and just tell you that there's no chest down there at the bottom. Though if you want to trick your friend into digging to their death, this might be the perfect setup for an easy prank. Here, it seems these pillagers built their outpost all the way at the top of the mountain, or at least they tried to. But because they started up so high, they were unable to build past the build limit, creating this halfway done outpost on top of the mountain. Though even if it was fully built, that doesn't seem like a very smart structure. I mean, how are they even supposed to get down? So unless these Squidwards have an elytra on hand, I think the villagers are going to be able to sleep peacefully tonight. Picture this. You spawn into the end dimension, and just after you defeat the Ender Dragon boss, an Elder Guardian flops toward you menacingly, which raises some questions. But that's just right. In this seed, we have an Elder Guardian that spawns directly in the center above a completed end portal. And within only a few minutes of spawning in, it falls through the portal and is stuck in the other dimension. And hats off to user Mooing Cow Milk for discovering this, since the odds of finding something this crazy turns out to be 1 in over 337 quadrillion chance. Or in other words, if you were to enter the end dimension with an Elder Guardian freaking out next to you, you might have hit the statistical jackpot. By now, you've probably heard us talk about a naturally completed end portal. But what about a naturally completed nether portal? Well, would you believe it, but this is even rarer than the alternative, because in these seeds, 2 ruined portals had to spawn next to each other in a woodland mansion with the obsidian frame still intact. And then, after enough time, there's a chance that the walls might catch fire because of the lava nearby, and that can ignite the portal, which results in a ruined house, but a fixed nether portal. Though I should mention that since fire spreads on a random tick generator, there's no guarantee that the lava lights it this way. So if you see it happen, make sure to take a picture for us. And with that, folks, have a good one, alright?